Hello and welcome to I Know That Voice, the podcast about voice actors and voice acting. I'm Keith Wickham, I'm a voice actor, have been for 30 years. You'll know me best probably as Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas and Friends, as well as Gordon, Henry, Edward and various other engines in the show.
Can you get on with it, Keith?
I'm also Professor Inkling and Shellington in the Octonauts, and I was a koala brother, I was Cornel and Watch My Chops, I was in 64 Zoo Lane. I was also Change Daily in The Secret Show.
Show isn't about you.
I thought it'd be nice to talk to my fellow voice artists about their profession. These are people whose voices you will know, but who could still go to the supermarket without being mobbed. Today's guest will be familiar to listeners of BBC Radio, Radio 4 Extra, Radio 4, Radio 2 over the years. He was also the voice of Dave, the television channel, for some time. He was on the BBC 6 Music Sean Keaveney breakfast show. He had his own Radio 4 comedy show a few years back. He's a comedian, composer, writer, presenter. I think, very simply, it's Jake Yapp.
I think we've got enough there.
Well, Jake Yapp, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, gosh.
Okay, I know that voice. Where would people know your voice from?
Nowhere now. Unless you
now.
Like both of the Radio 4 Extra Comedy Club listeners are listening to a podcast, which, I mean...
I'm one of them.
They might not have anything else to do. So, I mean, I was, for 12 years, I was, not my words, I was the voice of Dave. So I did,
right.
I did all of the promos on Dave.
Okay.
And I did other bits and pieces for them, some TV shows.
Yeah.
I never know what to...
You had your own series on Radio 4.
Thanks. I can't remember.
Yes.
I block out trauma, you see. This is the problem. So I don't remember any of this. Yes, I did Charlie Brooker's Weekly Wipe once.
That's
which
right.
was that's the one that sort of people sometimes look vaguely impressed by, you know.
Yeah.
But I did. I mean, I started in radio. I joined the old Radio 5 before it became News and Sport. I joined at 19.
Wow. How the hell did you get involved in anything in the first place? This is always a question I ask people because it's not an easy business to get into.
It's a nightmare. Yeah, it's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
I knew, because I'm a Nepo baby. So my father had written stuff, and he started writing stuff for Weekending on Radio 4, which was their rolling flagship topical comedy show.
I was on that.
Were you? When?
Mid-90s.
Okay.
94, 95.
Oh, well, you're a bit of you're a puppy. So I got my first sketch on that when I was 16. And it got onto Pick of the Week. And as I like to say, my career has just been downhill ever since, really. So I sort of did that and sort of thought, oh, this could be it. And and there was this. I mean, it was brilliant because once a week there was an open meeting where the producer would come into and you could go into the BBC as no one at all, and the producer would come in and say, okay, well, our commissioned writers are covering these stories, but here's stuff we still might be interested in stuff on. And there'd be sort of 30 people, all of whom either looked or smelled unusual. There was one guy who used to walk through the corridor, because it was in the light entertainment department, and he'd walk around with a badge that just said, writer, on it. I think just hoping somebody, look, there's one, quickly, we need you to... But I sort of got to know people and kind of, you know, people be in the pub, and I got work answering the phones for phone-ins. I was the guy when people rang into... the old Radio 5. And then Danny Baker very abruptly left the breakfast show there, and they needed to build a new show within, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. And they hired me sort of on the spot. Like, I went in for a chat on the Thursday, and they said, start Monday. And I was 19. I wasn't just unemployed, but I was in Job Club. And it was my last week of Job Club. And if after you'd done your run on Job Club, you hadn't got a job, that was it. They stopped with benefits. And I was thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I really don't know what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And I mean, this is what sort of dates it, was that I'd forgotten my, whatever the signing on thing. Was it the UB40? Was that a student thing?
A UB40?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten it to sign on. And so I'd had to race back to the house to pick it up. And as I was leaving, the phone rang, the landline rang, And I thought, I gotta go. I'll just leave it. I thought, no, I'll pick it up. And I picked it up, and it was the BBC saying, could you come in and have a chat? So I went in and had a chat with these editors who I hadn't met before, but it was a couple of producers had put me forward. And I had this chat with the editors, which was just, I mean, every job interview I've ever had practically, which is just me sort of expectorating and sort of clearing my throat and staring at the floor. And after sort of 15 minutes of awkward silence, they said, thanks so much for coming in. And then went into the other room with the producer and said, what the hell is this? What?
So considering you actually got these jobs, is this advice you would give young people now trying to get into
always
the
clear your
business?
throat before,
look at the floor.
Before you go in. And these producers said, no, he's good, really. He's just clearly is just hopeless at this. And so they put me on a 2-week contract, and I only occasionally look back with bitter regret. But it was great. For me, it was university. The BBC was university. It's where I learnt to script, to edit, everything.
So you stayed for quite a while.
Yeah, I went from Radio 5, which announced it was being axed the week I joined. So that wasn't great. And then I went to Radio 4, doing what were called trails, promos. Yeah. Then I went to Radio 2. And whatever Danny Wallace tells you, I was the BBC's youngest producer at 20. Whatever he tells you. I love him so much. He's done so much for me. He's an amazing man.
Right.
And Radio 2 was just so much fun in those days.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
I mean, now it's all very corporate and slick, and
I think everything's corporate and slick now.
Yeah.
There isn't a BBC like there was.
No.
And Tom Stoppard said he got his first play on, like you, walking into the front of the broadcasting house, saying, "I've got a play."
Right.
All right, then.
Right. Yeah, you can sort of see them like sort of moth-eaten cardigans, hands too high up the hips, hands on the rib cage. Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, give it a go. I think I've lost you. I blame myself. Hello? I'm going to keep rolling. I should leave an Easter egg on this, waiting for you to come back. What should it be? Should I get my ukulele spike? Pack it up, pack it in, let me begin. I came to win, battle me, that's a sin. I won't tear the stack up, punk, you better back up. Try and play the role, the whole crew will act up. Get up, stand up, come on and throw your arms up. If you got the feeling, jump across the ceiling. Mugs, it's a funk fest, someone's talking junk. I'll bust him in the eye, and then I'll take the punks home. Feel it, funk it, amps it, junk it, and I got more rhymes than there's cops that are dunking. Donuts, shop, shone up, forgot props from the kids on the hill, plus my mum and my pops. I came to get down, so get out your seat and jump around, jump around, jump up and get down, jump around. He's gone. I'm going to keep rolling.
What did you always want to do this stuff for a living? Did you have something else in mind?
No, I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I was about 14, I think, and that was when it really crystallized.
Okay.
And I then sort of over those, I would say the sort of 2 years up to 16, what I wanted to do was write and perform music and comedy. And I feel very lucky that I've done a very close approximation to that. I've managed to sort of tick off quite a few ambitions that I held.
Like
having a series on Radio 4 was, that was always a big,
that was a top one
thing. I always wanted a Thursday night at 9 on BBC 2, back when comedy was a thing. That was what you really wanted, and that sort of disappeared. So I'm, maybe I can sort of claim exemption. There's still time. I'm still young. I'm so irrelevant. I think that's the thing I've had to come to terms with over the last 5 years. It's my relevance has just tanked. And it's what you do after that is interesting. But
because your famous thing was were you at the point you did the famous thing of doing the thing in 1 minute, the 1 minute précis? Was that out of sheer desperation, or was it something you'd thought of before?
It was. So I did a piece called Radio 4 in 4 minutes, and it went out on YouTube. And I'm going to steal the brilliant Dilly Keen's joke. It didn't go viral, but it was definitely fungal. I made it the day before my son was born, Spike. By then I'd been freelance for 10 or so years, and I'd been sort of scraping by.
Okay.
But I sort of thought, well, I'm about to become a father. Grow up. Abandon your silly dreams and go and get an office job. And I'd done office jobs, I mean, sort of in TV production. Not only that, I think I felt like, well, I need to burn my bridges then, to really destroy all hope. I remembered my father telling me that he saw on Worthing Bandstand, I think, as a child, when Worthing was a place. Sorry, Worthing. I was listening. It's fine. Peter Sellers, live. He did a day in the life of the Home Service and brought the house down.
Really?
And it had sort of festered away in my head for a while. And I sort of thought, I'm going to do a day in the life of Radio 4 because, like any family member, I love it and it drives me up the wall. And I did it, and it was absolutely designed as a adieu, not an au revoir, because I thought I'm just going to say everything I've bit my lip on. And I'd done pilots for Radio 4. I'd submitted stuff, and I'd never got anywhere with it. And so I did this piece, and it was quite excoriating. I wrote it very quickly because it was the product of a lifetime of listening to Radio 4. So the execution, it didn't take long. It was all in there, It was not. I did 2 sort of bad kind of opening takes, like fluffed within the first 10 seconds. I got 1 good take down. I had to catch a train to go and do a voiceover for Dave. And I thought, that'll do. And I was editing it on the train heading down and realised, and it was only by accident that I realised it was Radio 4 in 4 minutes. It just happened to run to 4 minutes. So I called it that and I uploaded it. And the next day, I think Spike was due to be born, and Kim, my partner, was sort of saying, I am done with pregnancy now. I'd like to meet this baby now. We were at the doctor's for a checkup, and the doctor was sort of saying, oh, well, we'll see how it goes. Give it another 24 hours, and blah, blah, blah. And Kim was like, and I thought, I'll just check my phone while we were waiting. And I went onto Twitter, and I looked and just saw like the retweets and like Armando Iannucci and Graham Linehan and Chris Addison and all these people kind of going, this is fantastic, look at this, and Rufus Hound, and I can't remember, lots of people. And I was kind of like, yeah, the baby, look at this. Like, I mean, it was one of those awful blokish moments. It was like, yeah, but my ego, remember, back in the room, guys.
Look at my career. Career.
Yeah. Yes. And I knew, because I had lots of friends, because I worked in the BBC for years. I got sort of quiet little messages from people. One person saying, just so you know, I can hear your piece going round the light entertainment department, and everybody's laughing. And actually, the head of light entertainment, who we had never gelled comedically, but she sent it round saying, "Have a look at this. This is hilarious." Brilliant. It just turned out that the BBC was just a complete gimp and just loved it.
Wow!
And doors opened from that.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? I've heard this story so many times that people get to a point where they kind of give up and they do something.
It was exactly that. I was just like, I give up.
Yeah.
Screw you. And that was it. And it rebooted everything. I got invited to a private eye lunch. Charlie Brooker was there, and then he was like, would you like to come and pollute my TV show, as the phrase he used.
Dear God. Just from that, straight off the bat.
It absolutely rebooted everything. Like, it really would have been over if it hadn't been for that sort of cri de coeur.
It's one of those things, always, the truth of something, isn't it? It's what's in your head that's the truth of something.
Yes.
Jack D had the same thing. He'd given up.
The Jack D story is fantastic, isn't it?
Yes, he'd given up. And he did 4 gigs. He had 4 gigs left or something, and he did this thing where he's just miserable, and everyone laughed.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah. Les Dawson, exactly the same story.
Really? I didn't know that.
Exactly the same story, yeah. It's the truth of it. It's just what's inside your head.
I think it's that, and I think something I still grapple with is that truth. It's very hard to, not to be trying to be a people pleaser.
Yes, you can't do it. You can't please everybody.
Yeah, I have what someone once described as like-itis, and to sort of, to sort of hold your own course and kind of say, well, no, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting into psychotherapy now, but I mean, genuinely, it's a big question. What do you really feel, and what do you really want to do?
Yes.
And to really drill into that can be very difficult, I think, if you're
it can be disturbing. I mean, particularly if you want to be a serial killer. You know.
Well, that I can say is doing very well because that's not dependent on commissioners. Well,
no, it's not.
Well, actually, it is, but in a very specific role.
What would you call yourself as a job title? You're not specifically a voice artist, but
I really never know what to say. I usually say sort of any amalgam of comedian, writer, broadcaster, composer.
Right.
People always say this, but it really is true. Like, my first love was radio. I was raised on the Goons and Round the Horn and Hancock's Half Hour. And then, as a teenager, sort of listened to those kind of comedies, Fry and Laurie and stuff like that. Possibly one of my best bodies of work was I did 3 years on Sean Keaveney's breakfast show on Six Music.
Okay.
And it's one of those things that not many people really know about. I mean, no one knows who I am. You're not going to get a lot of hits on this podcast, but I did sketches and jingles for Sean Keaveney. Wasn't massive on the name checks, was Sean. It was great when Dally Wallace depped, but it was actually when one of my sketches got onto Pick of the Week, and it was back announced as Sean Keaveney and team. Oh, and I was like, I think I might have to go now.
That's disappointing.
What would happen is every morning they would email me at about 6:45 in the morning. I'd be at home and they'd say, right, can we have a sketch on this, this and this? And it would be 3 news stories. And then I'd have rolling hourly deadlines to write, record, edit and mix.
God, okay.
A finished sort of 1 minute, 2 minute sketch.
Yeah.
Very often I would do the music as well, or, jingles or songs or whatever was needed. But what I really liked was doing what you can only do with radio, which is to produce this really rich soundscape.
With nothing.
With nothing, yeah. I mean, it's literally me and my laptop. And some of them, I mean, a lot of them were terrible because I had a rolling hourly deadline. Come on. But some of them were really, really good. And I did somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 pieces for that.
That's a hell of a lot.
Yeah. And you really started to kind of hone the muscles. Yeah, and I generally I did 20 minutes for thinking, 10-ish minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for writing, and then 20 minutes for production.
Content providing for the internet is exactly what people were doing with broadcast. Like Spike Milligan was writing a weekly show for the Goons, and it nearly killed him. And you wondered why. When you were listening to it as a kid or whatever, when you were younger, you were listening to these shows and thinking, it must be brilliant writing this stuff. It must be brilliant doing this. It's fantastic. It's great fun.
Yeah.
And then everyone's doing it, but it's... Yeah.
What Spike Milligan had, because I was producing, I totted it up, and it was 25 minutes to half an hour of material a week I was doing for Sean. But I thought what I am not cursed with the way Spike was is scrutiny. No one knew who I was. No one was listening. That's anyway. True. Like, I could just make it. And the stakes weren't that high. They weren't scheduling trains around my broadcast the way they did with the Goon Show. So I didn't really have to worry that much.
But it's what my point was, though. It's continuous. You have to keep on doing it, is the point. And once you start on this conveyor belt...
Well, I'm not sure. I think actually starting and stopping is worse. I find when I have my sort of fallow periods, and I'm just sort of emerging from one. Yeah. It's like any exercise, be it mental or physical, the muscles atrophy. What I learned in my sort of 3 years doing that stuff for Sean Keaveney was, no one wants to quote Rolf Harris, but he came up with a brilliant phrase talking about painting, which is kill the white. If you're facing a blank canvas, just splosh some paint.
Put something on it.
It doesn't matter what. And then you can start correcting it. And actually, all creative work is really just fixing a problem. So make a problem. And then you can start fixing it. And the sort of confidence that you gained with that was fantastic.
If you're in front of a microphone... this is something that you're probably particularly good at, is just coming up with stuff. Because you've done so much radio, you can sit in front of... I've heard you do it on 4 Extra, where you can just extemporize. I'm thinking of the interviews you've done with people.
I love doing interviews. Yes. I really do. And I think there is a huge overlap, not just John Cleese, but between... comedy is so much about psychology. when I'm interviewing someone, what I'm really doing is actually horrific, like ivy, like some sort of parasitic infestation. You know, I'm trying to inject my worm eggs into your brain. You know, I want to find out, you know, what are you thinking? Why have you done this? Why have you done this show? What is it about this show, and why does it work, and how does it make you feel? I'm always interested in the psychology. You know, I think that, you know, how does my brain tickle your brain?
Yes.
You know, and how does yours tickle mine? You know, how does that work? I kind of always start from that sort of point, which is like, why has this happened? Why are you doing this, and how? I very rarely prep questions for interviews. I mean, generally the producer will have written some basic, tell us about the show, you know, but I like to try to react to what they've told me, you know, and make my questions contextual so that it feels like a proper organic conversation. But I mean, it's risky.
Yes, it is risky. It is risky. And did you do a lot of stand-up? What was your comedy experience specifically? I've always wondered this because I don't know what you actually did. I did,
and actually this comes back to what we were saying about the Radio 4 in 4 minutes piece. I never found my stand-up voice. People knew. They could see I was probably a nice enough person, and I'd clearly worked on some jokes, and they were perfectly acceptable jokes. But I could never fully connect. There were moments. There were always like little ad-lib moments, you know, and I tried to build stand-up where I could take off my sort of training wheels and kind of go off script and be in the moment. I always enjoyed Ross Noble's stand-up. I didn't laugh at it, but I loved this idea that you could just walk into a room and begin and just have this organic experience, and you could feel the audience responding. And even though it wasn't necessarily the funniest thing you've ever heard, it was that immediacy. I did improv for a while. I lived in America for a couple of years, and I did improv with them, and that was great. And American crowds are so nice because, you know, in America, if you say, I think I could do a thing, they'll go, okay, great, good for you. Let's see what you got. And if you do it in the UK, they're like, who do you think you are? Get back in your box. And here's a pint glass filled with piss for your trouble. But here we go. I mean, you do get into the psychology of it. And I was bullied at school a lot. I've always compared, and I'm not the first. I think Jim Barclay was one of the first to compare doing stand-up comedy to supply teaching. And just as, you know, with a supply teacher, you've got from opening the classroom door to standing behind the desk, that walk, and your class will have decided whether you're going to live or die. You know, they know. And it's the same with a comedian. The walk to the microphone, the audience has probably made their mind up. You know, are we with you or are we not? And it's very, very, very hard to fake that. You know, they won't be actively hostile, but they're just not going to engage. They'll sense it.
I assume when you were on the circuit, you saw a lot of other comics, and you see the great ones instantly. You know, they're not even in embryo. They just go on stage.
Yeah. Like Amy Gledhill, I think, is a great proponent. You know, she walks out on stage. She looks delighted. It's like it's a surprise birthday party. You know, she's like, oh my God. And she reaches out. Like, you can feel her literally reaching from the stage and connecting. And she does it phenomenally well.
Yes.
I can't do that because I'm too scared, and there's a map of Africa spreading down my inner thigh. Like, it's just, you know, and everyone's looking at that. They're not looking at, now they're seeing the hot, wet eyes.
There's your connection. You could do a lecture about Africa.
Yeah. Because I'm definitely the right person to be doing that.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Totally. Of course
Fully qualified, I think.
So I'm going to talk about AI. I mean, I just gauge opinion and gauge ideas about what people think of what is happening and what's going to happen and how it's affecting them and how they think it's going to affect them.
Yeah. You know, AI has definitely, you can feel its presence. There's no question. And have I used it? Yeah, I have. And I think...
What do you use it for, then, if you're going to say that?
So I didn't think I could earn yet more contempt from my contemporaries and peers. So I had an experience. I write music, and I've done a few pieces for Lego. worldwide. So for their social media stuff, they wanted a very specific kind of vocalist to sing this song. And it was not one that I could provide. And I hit up my muso friends and got them to ring round, and I managed to secure a voice artist, a proper West End bona fide voice artist to sing. She was a phenomenal singer. It was quite difficult. She was in much more demand than I was, and kind of pinning her down and getting it recorded and then putting all the takes together and trying to sweeten and tidy up the audio, which sounded like it had been recorded on a laptop microphone, and trying to make it sound okay was horrific. I then, about a month later, found some software, a sort of subscription service of AI, whereby you can just upload your vocal stems, your isolated recording, your vocals, and you can say, well, I want this performance but sung by this person. And there's like 30 different people that you click on. And it is freakish. It is entirely your performance, but with a completely different timbre to your voice.
Oh, God. Okay.
And completely different. And you would never know. And you would never know because it is still palpably your performance. You know, every imperfection, every little, sibilance or whatever nuance to your voice carries through into this new timbre voice. But I would find a way. And if I had known about that, I'm so sorry, but I would not have hired this other person because for the hassle, for the absolute headache of it, it would not have been worth it. And so I think there's an analogy, right? Which is, we all said, oh no, synthesizers are going to kill orchestras. And they didn't. They didn't kill orchestras. What this software does is it gives you, as a creator, a huge toolkit to create something that can sound quite good. Is it going to be the same as amassing, 4 vocalists in a room where they work with each other and feel each other and, kind of key into each other's performance? No, of course not. But will it give you something that sounds quite good? Does that mean you're going to replace the 3 tenors with 3 laptops? No, of course not. Change always feels scary, and it feels disruptive, and you kind of think, oh, what does this mean? I think maybe it's important not to panic too much and actually kind of go, well, what does this mean I can do? What can I now do for a minimal cost that I couldn't do before? Does it mean that some low-grade work might get swallowed up? Yeah, I'm afraid it does. Yeah, it does. Does it mean that all work will get swallowed up? No. Does it mean that shall I keep doing this model of rhetorical questions? Oh, God, I think so. Should I be sorry? Yes, I should. Am I still going on? Am I stuck in a loop now? Yes, I can't stop. For you as a creator of stuff, it means that you can present your work in a more polished form that I think will allow you to get taken more seriously. Just as I can produce a really good music demo in my home studio.
Yes. And
that actually now, if you sort of squint your ears, if that's possible, you could kind of go, oh, it sounds quite like an orchestra. But it's never going to beat an orchestra. But does it mean that I could get taken more seriously as a composer going forward and saying, I'd like to write for an orchestra? Yeah, potentially.
And your point about if you'd have realised what a headache it was going to be.
Yeah.
That's the point. Actors are basically expensive props for a lot of producers. If we're not a star and making money, we're basically we're draining budget.
Yes.
And if they cannot use us, they won't use us. That's always been the case.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
It's never been untrue, that. But they've now got the tools to do it.
To an extent, because I think, this software I use, it's great, but I still have to give that performance. And actually, truthfully, can I get absolutely the performance? Are there things that are beyond my scope and my range, yes, of course, absolutely. So some budget stuff will go because some people won't care. But
do you think that's another question I ask people? Is do you think the audience cares enough to make a difference?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I really fervently do. I don't think producers do, but audiences do. And for me, the example I always use is You've Been Framed and Harry Hill's TV burp. Well, You've Been Framed for years was, look at this plonker. He's going to fall down. Oh, he fell down. Canned laughter, applause. And that was it. And then Harry Hill came along and brought in a really good writing team and elevated it to an art form. I tried to do that. I did 2 series of a show called The Hurting on Dave, which comes around occasionally. And I got an amazing write-up in The Guardian. It was a terrible clip show. It was people falling off skateboards. But I poured my heart and soul into it. I completely replaced the soundtrack. I wrote dozens and dozens of new pieces of music and songs and just did everything I could to kind of elevate it into something good. And I think the audiences do respond. I'm not saying that The Hurting was a shining example of that, but I do think You've Been Framed in TV burp. There it was, ITV, tea time viewing. Hot trash as far as people like me were always concerned. Just garbage. And yet suddenly you turn it into something really good. And it's not about me. It's about the mainstream ITV viewing network. They loved those shows. If you put good quality in front of an audience, they will respond. They will tolerate trash. But that doesn't mean they won't appreciate the difference if you give them something good. I do think vocal performers, if that's what you are, I think it's worth learning to originate your own material, generate your own stuff. Because if you can do that, then you become the property in a way that it's going to be harder to hold on to solely as a performer now. I was watching something online about sort of sense of community and people were talking about online communities. And people were sort of saying, what a load of rubbish that is, because they're not.
There's no community.
It's not. You're not actually having to learn to get on with people because if there's someone you don't agree with online, you just block them and they're gone. It's not actually about learning social cohesion and stuff. There's a woman I know who's just started doing a bingo night once a month in the room in the back of a pub in Bedford, where I live. You can kind of go, well, that sucks. She's fallen on harder times. She was doing X, Y, and Z, and now she's doing this. But I actually think she's kind of ahead of the curve because I think more and more it's going to be about doing the things that you can't do with AI. AI cannot go and stand on a stage and do a show. It just can't. I know there's ABBA, all right. Apart from ABBA, we're a long way off that being the norm. People, I do think, want human connections. They do know the difference. And I think that it's perhaps worth scaling down your ambitions. Try to tickle a room with 10, 15, 20 people in it, somewhere nearby, and build out from there. And I think you'll feel the difference. I think it's time to get back and literally start at zero again, perhaps in some instances. There's a great humility in that, but a dignity too. I think I think it's really honest and it's really human and it feels immediate and visceral.
And I won't have to AI your performance.
Oh, there you go. If you wouldn't mind making me sound a bit more butch, that'd be nice.
Because your voice is another thing. I was also curious about how much of an effect that's had, because your voice is quite specific and it sounds very, very, very friendly, no matter what you do or say.
I got an email from someone who took the trouble to find an email for me on the internet. Hi, I just thought I'd drop you a line because I listen to Comedy Club and Radio 4 Extra. I really love it, but every time you come on, I just really want to punch you. And it was like, sorry, but that's just how I feel. And I was like, okay. Thank you for taking so much trouble to tell me what my voice does. I feel like my voice is quite kind of generic. It's also quite problematically posh sounding. I was raised in Southeast London. I mean, I'm. My mother was working class. My dad was sort of upper middle class, and they sort of met in the middle, down the sort of rough end of the middle class. Okay. And this is my sort of native accent, but I had to learn quite far. You know, it only took a few kickings in a Southeast London playground to learn how to like. So I mean, and you know, I had to, for a lot of my school years, pretend to be someone I wasn't.
A bit rougher.
Well, not like that, but
yeah, okay.
So like that. I thought like all the muscles was in my mouth had atrophied a bit. So
There, you see, I'd want to punch that.
Well, people do. Don't worry. I can assure you it happens. Well, I had a tape recorder like everybody did when I was 10 and loved it. And then when I was about 16-ish, I got a 4-track recorder and I loved that. And I was doing a lot of music and stuff. But I listened back to you know, when people sort of say, I can't stand the sound of my voice. I can't listen. It's like, well, I did a lot. And it's possible that I aesthetically modified it a bit from having heard it recorded so much. You know, I don't know.
You're probably right.
But
you're probably right. I did exactly the same thing. I had a tape recorder, and we're friends of mine, and we used to sit there. And one of the things I used to love doing was dubbing over films. I had a VHS recorder by the time I was 16, and we'd have 2 machines.
Yes.
And we'd dub. Yeah. Did you do that?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. And I had. I found a way to sort of directly take a line feed off VHS, Betamax, and. So I would listen to my favourite TV shows and films on cassette on my Walkman. I was obsessed with it.
You don't call yourself a mimic, do you? That's not one of your.
No, I mean I did impressions. That really started when I worked on Sean Keaveney's show because there's no one else there, so I kind of had to do it. Yeah. And I'm sort of secretly a bit proud of some of my impressions, but I wouldn't ever call myself.
Not sell yourself as such. No.
This is a very tangential route into a plug, but I discovered at, I think, 17 that I could do an impression of my great aunt Ruby, who was 90. That was so convincing, I rang my cousin pretending to be her and sort of descended into filth. And he swallowed it. He absolutely believed that I was her. And it was that was a giddy moment. And I would phone LBC occasionally pretending to be Ruby in Catford, and she turned into a character called Dora Dale, who I did on Radio 4 Extra. I did a series and bits and pieces as her, and I here's my plug. I've just started a new podcast called Modern Sex with Dora Dale, which is sort of a celebrity tell-all thing, really.
And she's how old?
She 90 something. She's a bit coy about it. It's not for the faint-hearted, I will say.
It doesn't sound like it.
You're not going to like it. People never talk about things, so you can't unhear it. You know, people never say that, do they?
Okay. No. And I love all the stuff you can just say.
Yeah.
You can't say as yourself.
Oh, it's joyful.
You simply can't do it.
Character comedy is just the most delightful thing because you are released from the prison of, as we were talking about, people pleasing. Suddenly, I'm not me, so I can say anything. I had another character who was far too Partridge adjacent, which was frustrating. The idea was he was actually based on like Alan Wicker, if you remember him, the old sort of
of course I do.
news anchor turned travelogue guy.
Yeah. And he had that very specific voice.
Extremely,
yes.
And I did a lot of stuff with him and Martin Kellner on the radio. I'd do these travelogue pieces. He'd ring me up on a Friday night and I'd be at the pub and I'd forgotten. I'd say, give me 3 minutes. And I'd bash out the song. I'd say, oh, good evening, Martin, from wherever. But he was so bitter and so angry about everything. And God, it was like crack, like being that foul and just caring so little. You know, I'd always end. He'd sort of say, you know, Bernard, thank you so much. Whatever. It's just don't care. Shut up. Bye.
It's fantastic.
Oh God.
And do you also find when you're doing character stuff comes out of your mouth?
Oh yeah.
That must be in your head somewhere.
You can't take credit for it.
Would never come out otherwise.
I've always said Dora's funnier than I am, you know, and it comes from some you bypass some
Yes.
self-censoring faculty
Yes.
when you're in
Yes.
character, and it's
Well, this is what Barry Humphries did with Edna Everage and Les Patterson.
wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, and what he could come up with that he would never say.
I had a great story about Barry Humphries before he was famous. He used to sit on the the metro system and whatever. He would pretend to be a sort of drunk Irish priest. He'd sort of be muttering and stuff, and he'd start berating another passenger who was a stooge, who was his friend. But obviously it'd be a crowded train, and all the eyes would be sliding away from the newspapers and watching this escalating row. And whoever the other guy would be like, oh, you're just a terrible priest. Your daughter's telling me that, and all of that. And it would end with the guy would grab his arm at the elbow, snap it on his knee, and it was a plaster arm. And at that point, Barry Humphries would shout, "Forgive him, Father. He knows not what he does."
I've never heard that story. That's fabulous.
I think it's about getting back to that state of doing it for the joy of it. Arthur Miller once said, "Where are the good plays?" Everyone's trying to write a great play. I don't want a great play. I just want a good play. Just do me a good play. And I think that's we were all setting out like, this will be the one, this will be the breakthrough, Channel 4 by this is the, just give up, stop, just tickle yourself, do the thing you want to do and imagine it's all over, because it probably is anyway. But maybe that is where you will find something that's truly resonant,
Great place to end, Jake.
There you go.
I think we should.
I do apologise.
Oh God, no! Don't apologise. I could go on forever on this stuff, but I don't want to, because I've got to edit it.
Yes, that's horrible.
Thank you so much, Jake.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
That was so much fun.
Oh, it was lovely.
You've been listening to I Know That Voice, presented and produced by Keith Wickham, whose voice I don't know that well, but other parts I'm perhaps more familiar with than I'd like to be. The guest was Jake Yapp, and that's me, but now I'm being Dora Dale and it's gone a bit weird. Okay, bye-bye.